This is a special webinar, which is a direct result of us basically spending all of December in yearly retrospectives, SEO reporting, budget planning, yearly plans. And so we decided instead of doing our usual research study, this webinar is going to be about SEO reporting and how to make the most out of it. And so super stoked to see you all here today. Helene, maybe you can pop on the iceberg and then we can slowly dive into it. I think a few people are still joining us, etc. But I'll kind of set us up. Earlier today, Helene shared an article with me by Alida Solis, who is a big SEO influencer that if you're not following her yet, you should. And she's polled her audience on what's like the least favorite SEO task, and SEO reporting was one of the least favorite one. And I think that's a real pity because this is the kind of like SEO iceberg. And with every good iceberg, only a very, very small part of it is on the top. And so there's always, what do we want? We want organic conversions, we want organic traffic, but that is actually such a small part of the entire SEO iceberg and the entire SEO equation. And so today we want to talk about how to bring some light on the big part of the SEO iceberg that is typically under the water. My name is Viola. I started Flow SEO about 4 or 5 years ago, and we focus on SEO for software startups. And super excited to be here today with Helene. Welcome.
Hello, I'm Helene. I've been with Flow SEO for 6 months now, which is kind of crazy to say. SEO specialist with a background in anthropology. So hence, you're going to get all of my nerdy data dreams coming true today when we talk about reporting. And definitely, please just give a shout in the chat if I start going off on something and everyone's lost and you're like, nope, you've gone there. So just put a little turtle slow down or something, a little emoji, and I can definitely pause and and take a step back.
Perfect. Yeah, Helene is, I would say, the queen of spreadsheets, data studio, and SEO reporting. And I've learned a lot from her in the last 6 months. And so very, very excited for her smart mind to kind of like show us what can be done today. Like I said, this is a screenshot from the poll where 32% of all SEOs said that SEO reporting is their least favorite activity, which I can't believe. It's one of my favorites. And so maybe to get us started, if you want to pop in the chat, who are you, what's your role, and what is your reporting challenge? Or of course, you can also let us know if you have reporting pleasures, but it seems to be the vibe is reporting challenge. So yeah, we would love to get to know you. And then as we go through this webinar, the chat is really the source of communication. Pop questions in there, clarifying questions to go deeper. We love to hear from you. And for me, that's probably the most fun part. And so strongly encourage to answer questions, to ask questions. And yeah.
Okay. While you guys are kind of writing down maybe your data challenges, reporting challenges, you can even throw in there, what do you absolutely hate doing? What are you just like, I cannot wrap my head around this? I'm really curious to see what everyone is doing. So today we are going to be covering presenting SEO to executives, the difference between progress metrics, leading indicators, success metrics, SEO data challenges that we face every day in our jobs, the power of data visualization and how to create these meaningful SEO reports, as well as we're going to share some of our real world examples that we use for our clients. We are not going to cover how to use a rank tracker or how to set up Data Studio. We will be sharing our Data Studio / Looker Studio. I have to get in the habit of changing the name now that it has a new brand. So we're going to go through this, but this is definitely not a tutorial of how to do these things. So we don't want to tie up some of this technical know-how. If you have questions, feel free to drop them in and we'll get back to you. But this is definitely more of a framework, a mindset. How do we talk about SEO? How do we communicate these things with our clients or our bosses, the supervisors? So how do we talk about what we do, and how does this, the way we talk about it, how does it help us in our job and getting support and buy-in? I just wanted to see, we have some stuff in the chat now.
Exactly. So Laura saying GA4 not matching with Universal Analytics is always a headache. Could not agree more. Or GA and any other tracking tool not giving you the same data. And we're going to talk about that a little bit. Natasha said her biggest challenge is balancing the time spent on reporting with getting other stuff done, and also giving insight instead of just summarizing data, which are great points. And then Justin said he's interested in our recommendations around rank tracking. And also Laura says if there is a change in the KPIs that clients care about the most. And so I think a lot of this we're gonna be running through today.
Yeah.
So click. So I kind of want to start with reporting framework, but before we go into the ins and outs, what to add to the report and what not to add, is think about SEO reporting like you would be thinking about any other marketing tool. Your SEO reporting has a target audience. This might be a client, this might be your team lead, your CMO, your VP of marketing. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to translate all of the SEO activities that you're doing on a day-to-day into something that makes sense for them. And the other way around, if you're a marketing lead, if you're an executive, we want to give you some insights on what kind of like data and information you should be asking for in order to make meaningful business decisions. And so I like to think the goal of reporting is happiness. And of course, that is some sort of like fluff metric. And so we've broken that down basically in 3 components. I think typically a satisfying reporting experience is one, it's based on transparency. And so that means that a report will help us understand what is the goal and how are we going to get there. And that allows for that people can follow, that people can feel included, and that people can understand why are we even doing what we're doing. What is the bigger aim behind our internal links, between our blog posts, between our backlinks. Typically, a good report will report on success. And so this is also, I think, Laura, to your question, I think the more mature companies I talk with, people want to know about more conversions, more traffic, more pipeline, more of the good stuff with business impact, and maybe less of an interest on page titles, meta description, et cetera, the quote unquote SEO-y things. And so I think the more a company grows and the more, let's say, mature the person is that you're talking with, it's usually less an interest around SEO related activities, and it's much more an interest on business impact. And so I would say in many ways, like success is the result of our activities. And so that's what it's usually is the progress that we are making towards. And even if we didn't hit our pipeline goals yet, a way to create transparency and a way to tell a story, say, what are the activities that we're working on towards that? And are we making progress against that? Because in many ways, I think a good SEO report and a good relationship gives people a peace of mind. It gives them the peace of mind that they know what we're doing and why, and that we're, moving closer to that goal. Most of the time, your team lead or your client will be busy with many other things, and they do not spend most of their time thinking and executing against SEO, which is a good thing, which is, why there's work for us as content marketers, SEOs, and agencies. But it also means that the clearer you can be in your communication and the more obvious you can make this be, that you're giving people a peace of mind that, like, yes, the organic side of things is taken care of and I understand what's happening there. And then lastly, I think it's also a tool for relationship building. And click. Mm-hmm. And so why is SEO reporting so important? I put here a chart of your marketing activities are a house with 2 rooms, which is a framework from David C. Baker that I can really recommend. And he basically says there's 2 things. There's strategy and there's execution. And in many ways, execution is something where you have a lot of competition. There's a lot of people who can do marketing activities, who can get things done. There's now AI and ChatGPT doing related activities. And so when you're competing in the space of execution, there's always the fear of being replaced, whether that you're an agency or whether that's your job. And so the way to become irreplaceable is actually translating these activities into a strategy that people can understand. And so I think if we talk about future-proofing yourself, this is really a unique skill set that allows you to charge more if you're an agency, be a more crucial player if you're an agency, be more involved in decision-making. And if you're in-house, it's an opportunity to, progress in your career, communicate what you're doing, and kind of showcasing your success. And so usually the strategic thinking is a part where you can become irreplaceable. And whilst executing the to-dos, there's usually someone different, cheaper, faster, more AI-driven there to potentially do some of the work for you. And so here's one example that we kind of made up. I think in many ways, this is like the typical SEO report. We have a chart of keyword rankings. We know in January, there was 129,000 keywords ranking. In January 2023, there was 581,000 keywords ranking. And so the headline is growth in keywords. And I think in many ways, as an SEO, we see a story there, right? We see, oh my God, it's like 4 times growth. Traffic is exploding. Page 1 rankings are exploding. But as someone who's not in the thick of SEO on the day-to-day, is not able to understand this chart, right? There's no context. We don't know what type of activities were done. We don't know if the growth goal was 10x growth and we actually failed it. We don't know if the growth goal was 2x growth and we actually achieved it, et cetera. And so the encouragement is moving away from simple data points into a more of a cohesive story. And so click. We tried to prepare a chart that is maybe more closer to that vision, which is that this idea is that on the chart, we're explaining the data points. We're explaining that the SEO strategy began in 2020. We're also explaining on the chart that content production really scaled up in 2021. And then we're saying, okay, we have a 350% increase in visibility in the last 2 years. And the scaling up the blog post has been the main driver in increased visibility. And it has had a 350% increase in ranking keywords and organic traffic over the last 2 years. And then the content supported with the agency briefings contributed to 80% of said growth. And so it tells much more of a story that about what was the goal and how did we get there. And so click. What we want to invite you to is seeing reporting not so much as kind of like the one to do to tick off the list. It's more, it's an opportunity to build relationship, build trust, and communicate. And so whenever we want to report, we want to figure out, like, how can we communicate the goal? How can we highlight the process to reach that goal? So for example, in this case, it was via scaling up blog content, create better slide titles, which I think I'm very guilty of bad slide titles. I just state like the obvious on the slide title. And so the idea is that instead of just replicating the fact, like highlighting what is actually the learning and business impact of that, explain your charts. What are the axes? What are we actually looking at? Don't assume people know that it's a chart of tracked keywords. And then also feel free to add essentially like annotation to your charts when like significant events happen. And then the other thing is like landing on a set of core metrics that we consistently want to report on. And so this is kind of how I think about what are worthwhile metrics to either report on, or if you're a marketing leader, ask for when someone reports SEO to you. And so this is a table to look at from left to right, which is first is this, what are the goals in terms of like organic conversion or organic growth that you want to be seeing? And then, the cop out is always like SEO takes time, it takes 3 months, takes 6 months, which fair, it often does. But that's not to say that there's not activities that we can be measured against as this is happening. And so the activities that we can own and that we can control in SEO is typically things like how many pieces of content are we publishing or updating? How many outreach activities are we executing against? Do we do a guest post outreach or unlinked brand mentions, et cetera? And this is something that we can make progress towards. Or what kind of like technical fixes are we doing? And so this is what I like to call progress metrics. It's essentially very task-based, and it's the activities that we do and that we are able to show progress on. And then typically what I try to explain to clients is that the first thing that you're going to see is kind of like leading indicators. Yes, ultimately we want more organic traffic and more organic conversion, but that's a little bit down the line. And so what are the things that we could be looking at as we're going through this process? And typically we'll see impressions go up first. We'll see keywords index go up first. We'll see domain rating and number of backlinks go up first. And that's not success yet, but it's indicating that we're going in the right direction. And then its success, coming back to the goal, is typically more around like SEO influence pipeline, SEO influence signups, organic traffic. And so in many ways, that's kind of like the framework I propose to think about when communicating. It's like, what is the goal? What is the strategy we're doing to do that? What are the activities we've planned to achieve that? And are we getting them done? Which gives people peace of mind and trust. And then do we see kind of impressions, keyword indexed, and backlinks go up? And then eventually do we see kind of like signups, organic traffic, et cetera, go up as well? All right, Helene, I'll let you take it away because it all sounds good and fair. Like putting it on a slide there is like, okay, we got it. I could have thought about this, but then I think all the kink lies in the details and actually trying to make a report that makes sense. And so Helene, I'll let you take it away.
Yeah, that is very, very true. There are a lot of data challenges in our life as SEOs. So we're going to talk about a few of them today and what can we do if there's anything that we can do. So to sort of connect with what Viola was talking about, I like to talk about the path of visibility. So thinking about which metrics are you looking at which time. So you're going to start with getting those impressions first. An impression when a user has potentially seen a link to your site in search results. They don't necessarily, it could be in the search results, but maybe they don't notice it, they don't see it. They didn't scroll that far, but there's an impression. You appeared in the search results. A click is when that user searches onto your website from the search results, both of these measured in Google Search Console. And so the clicks are only for clicks through Google, whereas organic sessions, which you can get along with conversions and Google Analytics, this can be from any search engine. So to note that this stuff right here, impressions and clicks, this is from Google Search Console. These are the early indicators. If you're getting a lot of impressions, then you start getting clicks. Eventually, you're going to start recording organic sessions. And hopefully, if everything is great, you'll have conversions when a user triggers an event or goal, often via submitting a form. So I just wanted to sort of lay that map out when we talk about these things, because I think this is a nice path to explain to clients, customers, anybody about how content goes through this process. So talking about Google Analytics, this is probably all of our main data source. The three of these, Google Analytics, Google Search Console, and SEO tool, whatever you're using for your rank tracking, whether it's Ahrefs, SEMrush, SE ranking. So they all present very fun, unique challenges for us. Google Analytics, you've probably already encountered this, but correct implementation, accurate tracking, Google Tag Manager, right there, those three bits. If they are not connected correctly, that data can be compromised. So making sure that you have the right technical things in place, that you're not double tracking your traffic, or you're not tracking it at the wrong source, such as organic traffic being measured by direct traffic, which can happen. And also on that note, then you have like the cookie notices with GDPR. This is causing an interesting drop in recorded traffic for websites. GDPR is kind of complicated. Definitely not a lawyer, so don't take whatever I'm saying as law. But basically, this just means that people need to opt in for their data to be used. So you have these cookies on your website, they're collecting data. So for example, Google Analytics has a cookie. When someone is there, they need to opt in. If they live in an EU country or California, they need to opt into being able to be recorded. And if someone doesn't opt in, or if they can just use the website without opting in, everything they do on that website is not recorded because they did not opt in. So when you put that little cookie notice at the bottom of your site, I know it's great. You can just ignore it and still use the site. You're actually losing valuable data about who's visiting your site and what they're doing. So these things can present challenges. As mentioned in the chat, I mean, universal analytics to GA4 is the new challenge a lot of us are dealing with at the moment, which basically will just require that we have to be mindful of this, maybe tracking to see if there's a set percentage difference between the two, and maybe creating a new baseline when dealing with a website, and maybe just saying, you know what, UA is going out, those numbers, we don't have them anymore after July. So whatever GA4 says, that's our new truth, whatever it may be that you're going to do. If you have a large site that's like 500,000 sessions a month, 1 million sessions a month, you actually get sampling applied. You are not getting all of your data. If you see on the bottom here in your Google Analytics, if you have all traffic data, you'll have a little green shield. If it's yellow, you can click it and you can see this report is based on 55.33% of sessions. So this can happen if you have really large sites. So then you're dealing with sampling. Doesn't mean there's anything wrong with it, because Google Search Console also uses sampling. But it's just good to note and good to understand that this is not 100% the truth all the time. So with Google Search Console, data is based on a sampling of the URLs. It's not necessarily the same each time. Google can crawl 200 URLs one week and 100 the next week and report, you know, URLs are not on Google differently. So these are something to be mindful about. It's also based on only Google search. It depends on the frequency of the crawl of your website. Anonymized queries exist on Search Console. So if there's low volume searches for maybe, you know, especially in a niche, if you're in a very specific, you know, B2B niche, very small search volume, very low, you're probably not going to see those queries inside Search Console because they're anonymized to protect the anonymity of people who are searching things on Google. There's also the daily row limit. There's the API daily limit. If you're using something like Screaming Frog, you can only get 2,000 URLs per day through the Search Console API. And there's also a 16-month data limit. So it's very interesting that you have these different systems here, and we kind of tend to use both of them, and they have different unique challenges between them. SEO tools, this is really going to depend on what you're using, but this can be based, the limits and challenges on your account-based limits. How many queries or updates can you do a day? How often does your rank tracking update? Some companies that run these tools may have a limited database. Some of them, you know, they may be more accurate than others. So there's definitely thinking about all of these things, not to be like, oh no, what's the point of measuring? But it's just being conscious of this and understanding that if these errors come up, if you see these weird drops after a cookie notice was implemented, then, you know, look back at Google Analytics, because that's what it's connected to. I guess I just want to pause for a moment, just because that was a lot of things, and I see the chat is going. Were there any questions or anything?
Yeah, I've been like, so I've been saying, like Irina said, she's also seen about 80% traffic drop after implementing GDPR cookie, which I can second that. I think clients have seen between 10 and 50% traffic drop, depending on how much EU traffic they have. For like EU, we have one client that it dropped, probably also more like 80% or so. That's correct. And then also the more segmenting and filters you have, the more sampling occurs as well. And then I just posted a reminder. So because of Search Console 16-month limit, now is a good time to download your 2022 data set if you're planning to make a year-over-year comparison at the end of this year.
True.
And so
nice. Okay, well, that will bring us to the value of first-party data. So just to start, we're going to have a little first-party, second-party, third-party data. You probably heard this also with cookies. First-party, second-party, third-party cookies. It sort of deals all around the same thing. So first-party data is data being collected directly by the organization. This can be through asking for your customer email or their address. They are giving this to you and you are using it. Second party data shared by a trusted source. This could, did not mean to do that, sorry. I had wrote down a nice example here. Indirect, like a social media profile, customer survey. A good example would be like a conference attendees when they say, hey, can our sponsors send you emails? That's like a second party situation there. Whereas the third party is aggregated data from other sources. This can be, the consent can be unknown. It can just be aggregated through a bunch of things. It's not very, you're not sure if you got consent or not. Something that falls under this would be Facebook Pixel, for example. Whereas Google Analytics, you're actually collecting some of that data through your website. So that would be a first party data. I had misspoken earlier, so I'm correcting myself. So yeah, Google Analytics, I feel that it falls in between first and second. I would love to talk about this with anybody if you want to nerd out, because I've Googled it and nobody's talking about it. So it's just thinking about this. Where are you getting your data? How are you putting it together? But I think there's a really inherent value to first party data because of the it depends. Each client is different. Each one has different reporting needs. They have different KPIs. Having your own data, having the control over the accuracy, the validity of that. And then you're able to create unique insights through maybe blending that data with other forms like Google Analytics or Search Console, which we've done, and we can show you how powerful this can be. And back to, this was our example of gaps in GA in a world of GDPR privacy. So this was actually the Flow SEO website before and after the cookie notice. I guess, Viola, you can.
Yeah, no, it's exact. This is actually perfect timing because Will also just asked. I see big disparities between Search Console clicks and GA4 organic sessions, and so actually, so this is.
Oh yeah, so the GA
kind of like point basically. So this is Flow SEO traffic in Q4, and you can see sessions and clicks is not the same thing anyway, but at this point you can basically see it kind of matches. Like in the sense that GA has like 377 session, Search Console had 260 clicks. I mean, if you're very detailed focus is like 30% off, you maybe already not happy. I'm like happy enough. I think directionally it's going in the same way, but we put the cookie notice up now in January. So basically what I expect to happen is that our GA sessions will go towards, well, maybe not towards zero, but will probably be like cut in half. But our Search Console clicks should remain the same. And so once we start freaking out about Q1 SEO results for Flow SEO, then Search Console might be a pretty good source of truth. Did we actually drop in organic traffic, or is it like the cookie notice that cut our tracking of organic sessions. And so that was kind of to illustrate that point.
Yeah, that's actually, we've had to deal with this a bit in the last few months, where we've had some issues with technical implementation or cookie notices on client sites. So clicks, although I said it was only Google, I mean, Google is the biggest search engine. Most of the traffic is coming there. Maybe if you are using, most of your clients are using Bing or something else, then you can use other reporting. But yeah, clicks are the closest thing that you can get that you kind of can't break.
And it's not dependent on your cookie notice, right? And so in this way, that it tells a pretty good story.
We had a question about this: to track or not to track keywords. Here at Flow, I think we're a bit on the not obsessing over individual keywords, but more of clusters of keywords, clusters of pages. We want to look at bigger things. And I thought that this was a really good example to show that keyword rankings on their own is not necessarily meaningful data for the stakeholders. It's a very small data set. They can be a leading indicator that we talked about, resulting in those organic traffic, new users, conversions, but on its own, it can be very limited. Tracking the keywords via page clusters, maybe using a blog, product pages. I think that this is a much larger sample size for you to understand how Google is understanding that content and those pages. Sorry. And this can provide the insights into pages with the most organic traffic or conversion. So this example, I think, is kind of fun. The competitive monitoring and competitor intel. This is for the same URL. One went down 45 and one went up 9. I think we have somebody with their mic on. Sorry.
I think, you, Helene, as a master of the Zoom room, you can force to mute them.
I muted. Exactly. Sorry, guys. And for this other one, cleaning data and data cleaning. I mean, come on. One is the dropped 8 spots and the other one rose 7 spots. So this is the same page for these 2 keywords and the same page for these 2 keywords. So I think when you see this, then what are you thinking? If you just looked at one keyword, you're like, oh, it's going up, it's great. But then if you looked at competitive monitoring, you're like, it just lost 45 spots. Like, so it's really thinking about this, maybe not necessarily obsessing over that one individual keyword all the time. Oop. And the last bit I wanted to touch upon about challenges with data is seasonality with some clients, some websites. So for example, a client has a website that is tied to US holidays. So when I do month over month data, it can seem like sometimes it goes really bad. If you can see here, for example, like from Q1 to Q2, these pages went up. These are page types. As I said, I like to look at page types. So these ones went up, but then from Q3, it went down. But if you look Q2 2021 to Q2 2022, you will see a really big increase there. And this is because the month over month data didn't make sense. I mean, if we're comparing December with lots of holidays to January with almost none, that's a different kind of traffic that's coming. And the quarter over quarter, once again, some quarters have a lot of holidays, some don't. This is not the case for every website, but it's something to consider, that year over year data can be really, really valuable, because there can be, I always try to think about it as like, we kind of made up a month. It's a bit arbitrary. How can you really get we don't live our lives of starting on the 1st of the month and at the end of the month, we're like, okay, that month is done, refresh, new thing. I don't know. We keep going. So websites keep going. We don't have a thing in our mind that blocks off the months other than looking at a calendar. So this is why I think year over year can be really interesting. Can take a moment if anyone has any questions about those challenges or something.
Justin has a question. He says, what's your preferred method for tracking search visibility by clusters? And so I don't know if you have thoughts on that.
Yeah. Actually, we're going to show you because this is on our dashboard. But yeah, we look at I like to look at all the keywords for one section kind of put together at once. And we're definitely going to show you that in our awesome reports.
Agreed. And to add to that is like, I think some websites make this easier than others. So for example, if a website is very nicely structured with /blog, /white paper, you can very easily compare the blog pages, let's say, to the white paper pages to the product pages, then it's obvious and easy. If not, as I learned recently, is you can obviously, and we'll talk about that, blend data where you have all your content tagged up in a spreadsheet, and you have a spreadsheet and you're like, this is this category, this is that category, and you can blend that with your GA or Search Console data. If you're a little bit more tech savvy or want to reach out to Irina, who's in the chat, you can also push this type of information straight into the data layer in GTM and then in Tag Manager, and then you can have it in your GA4 reports. But basically you need to either through the slug or through a blog category or a page type, either in a spreadsheet or more elegantly in Google Tag Manager, push that information, what type of page it is. And so that's one way to start thinking in clusters. And I think two obvious ones are, let's say, product service pages for more transactional bottom of funnel keywords, probably more important for hand raisers, demo requests, contact requests, kind of like money making type activities, clustering them and having an eye on them versus, let's say, more blog content, more top of funnel, middle of funnel activities. All right. Building dashboard.
Nice. Okay, I'm gonna go through this and then Viola's gonna show you the goods. So one of my favorite things to do with SEO reporting is leveraging visualizations to help guide the eye. We talk about a lot of technical things sometimes. We have our SEO language that maybe whoever we're speaking with they don't know. They don't understand. It's above their head. They just want to know, okay, what's the results? What's the value? What's going on here? And just putting up any chart isn't going to do it. So you want to think about what you're doing. Here's an example. This is the same data set shown in 3 different ways, very simple. And the first one, a line chart, you want to use this if you want to show changes over time. You want to look at, search visibility over time. It's non-cyclical in a way. You can compare different quarters. You can compare, year over year. Column and bar chart can be used if you have just like 1 or 2 variables and you want to do that comparison. We'll see this when we break down like page types and we want to see like the chart we had before, this one. So we had page types and this was their organic sessions. So we were able to see how the different page types were growing through time. And of course, one of the most simple, beloved, the pie chart. This is static composition, share of the total. So you want to say like, these many pages are getting this much organic traffic compared to the entire site, or pages that we provided briefs for are contributing this much traffic to the site, but your old pages are only contributing this much. You can really use this pie chart to be quite powerful, even though it's a very simple concept. I've definitely seen Viola use it in really cool ways. I don't know if we have any of them for today, but there are some nice ways to really show the impact of your work in just a simple pie chart.
Yeah. And I will add to this, I was just thinking about this as you were speaking. I would say the one way Helene has made me significantly better in reporting is teaching me how to use pivot tables effectively. I think when I first had like Excel pivot table, it was kind of like the thing that is like complicated to do and I can't even begin to comprehend. And so the good news is that now with spreadsheets, it's really much more drag and drop, right? You're like insert pivot table, and then you can drag and drop your values in there. And so if you're finding yourself calculating a lot of sums manually, collating like totals for page type clusters, like manually, etc. This is probably a use case for a pivot table. And so that's probably, you know, in terms of like tangible skill set, is looking up a few videos on how you can use pivot tables, and then from that create charts. That's going to make it way faster. So strongly recommend that, adding that to your learning schedule for 2023.
Yeah,
all right.
Definitely. The Google Sheets also, if you have a pivot table and you want to create a chart, it's quite smart and it understands what you're doing. So a lot of times they'll suggest the correct chart for you. If you want to get a little bit more advanced, then that's different, but it definitely helps you along.
Perfect. Nice. I'll steal the screen from you, and or are you gonna do it for me? That might also be.
I don't know if that's
there we go. There we go. I'm moving house. My new house does not have an internet contract yet, so I'm tethering from my phone, and I was afraid that, you know, something's gonna happen. So this is why Helene is sharing the screen for me. Okay, so we wanted to share with you how we ended up doing our monthly SEO report so that you can get inspired. And this is a Flow SEO report for the Flow SEO website, because we didn't want to share a client's website, so we're sharing our website. So the report basically starts with the executive summary. And so this is this idea: if someone that doesn't have any time is not going to go through the report, what are the 4 or 5 things that they need to know? Like, what is traffic doing? What are conversions doing? And what is an opportunity to address? What's an area to address? And so it's also, when you're emailing out your report, you know, this is probably what you want to copy into the email, so that even if someone doesn't click on the report, this is kind of what they see. And they have like 3 or 4 bullet points that tell a story about where the site is at. And so, for example, Flow SEO organic traffic is at an all-time high. Like every good SEO agency, for a long time, we did not do SEO. You know, the shoemaker who doesn't do their own shoes. But Google started liking the site about 3 months ago. So now we have about 1,000 organic sessions per month. But then note, in January, we installed the cookie notice. So we expect starting January, that number look worse. Conversion trend, actually conversion rates have improved. However, we're getting a lot of guest post outreach requests, is because we started ranking for a post that I wrote for our clients. They're like, should I accept a guest post? Making it that we now rank for accept guest post. And I'm getting a lot of guest post requests. And so even though the contact request number looks higher, it's like the wrong type of contact request. And so again, I'm not just presenting something like conversions are looking good. I'm also contextualizing that half of these are people asking for a guest post. And then the opportunity is our bounce rate is pretty high. And so addressing kind of like above the fold design is needed to bring the bounce rate lower. Then we have kind of like an overview topic of progress metrics, the key projects. We implemented a GPT-3 bot on our blog. So if you are like me and you're very excited about ChatGPT, please go to flowseo.com/blog, check it out. We also introduced a Learn Hub for like glossary type content. And so that's highlighting the main initiatives. There's some most important links. And then on the bottom of the report, we track our progress metrics. How many links did we get? What was the link target? How many referring domains did we get? Very similar. How much content were we planning to publish? Did we actually publish it, or did we not publish it? And so, for example, you see in November, we were supposed to publish, but we didn't. But otherwise, we usually hit our publishing goals. And then from there, we go into organic traffic. This is thinking... depends a little bit. Some of our clients, it's better to report on users than sessions. In this case, we have all sessions, we have organic sessions, and we have new users, then the clicks from Search Console, and then the impressions. And we actually copied that number. And so you have month over month and year over year for the reasons that we discussed, for seasonalities and to discuss like macro trends. We then have a pie chart of traffic distribution. And then we decided it's also worthwhile seeing how other acquisition channels are doing compared to SEO. So for example, if SEO is down, are all channels going down because of seasonalities, or is it just an SEO problem. And so, for example, what stands out to me is that direct traffic went up 70% in December, which is very weird to me. And so just get into a habit. If you see like unexpected changes, like that usually will raise the question of a client or leader. And they're just going to be like, why is direct up 70%? And so you want to have an answer ready for that. In this case, it was more homepage traffic on the 26th of December. So I need to see, what kind of like would have inspired this. We then have organic sessions and organic clicks and impressions from Search Console. And the idea is here, if, GA tracking is somehow not properly, etc., like having it side by side from Search Console clicks, so we can get kind of like see like the macro trends. Are these lines pointing in the same direction? And you can basically see how our organic traffic went up starting September. And then, but then basically, so that's kind of like traffic, right? But then most people from traffic are interested in actually conversion and engagement. So then the encouragement is to have like a chart, how are conversions doing over time? A little bit of tracking issue, I think, starting December. But so you can see kind of like conversions over time. Then a pie chart is like conversion distribution per page type. And so we can see a bunch of people convert on the homepage, people convert on Boutique SEO Agency Berlin, people convert on my speaker page, all of that I like. But then a lot of people convert on the should I accept a guest post, which is an issue for the reasons I just explained. And so this is kind of what you want to see is like, what are the pages that are really giving you something? And then we have some information on page speed, bounce rate, and pages per session as well. And then sessions per location. And so I think in our case, we rank quite international because we're English content, but like our target audience, our clients is in the US. And so we obviously want to keep an eye on our US traffic first and foremost. And yes, we will upload this webinar as every webinar to the YouTube channel. I'll post that. And so, these two slides, basically traffic overview. It depends a little bit what type of like divide and conquer you have in your team or, with your client. I think pretty clearly SEOs are in charge of organic traffic. I think they probably need to and should be in charge also for organic conversion. But these are the two kind of like slides that report on traffic and conversion. And then from there, we go more into the activity-based thing. At least the SEO we do, I think there's different types of sites need different type of SEO. If you're a large e-com store, you're probably more heavy on the technical SEO side. If you're a local business, you're maybe more heavy on the Google My Business, Google Maps stuff. We work with software companies, which is usually a very content-driven type of SEO. And so it's important for us to show how content is doing. And one of the charts we're very excited about, and that Helene is going to talk more about, is this chart on the top, which shows us when did we publish SEO content? Was it a new content piece or an update? And then how is it doing in impressions and clicks? And this is kind of satisfying the need also of clients and executives to see is like, are the posts we're publishing for SEO really giving us something and how does it work? And it's also specifically showing impressions and clicks because we want to show when these posts starts making progress. Because I think there could be a very long dry period potentially of like 0 sessions, but actually the post is already improving impressions and rankings, and we're trying to capture that progress there. We show the top 10 URLs with the highest increases and decreases. This is for us to spot either winners or problems. So if all of a sudden some of our most popular pages start dropping, we know that we need to action something. And then on the bottom of the page, we have a distribution of the top performing posts. And this is usually because often clients have like 2, 3, 4 pages that bring a huge amount of organic traffic. And we want to specifically keep an eye on them if there's any changes to them, seeing if they're going up or down, which actually makes me see pillow page example is down 4.6%. It's already freaking me out. It's one of my favorite pages. And so this is kind of what you can spot here. And then the last slide is probably what you would expect on an SEO report. We have the content performance on the blog. We have blog specifically because the Flow SEO website basically is 90% blog posts. We don't really have a lot of other page types. And there we have the performance of blog only. And then we do have like 3 or 4 most important keywords for our most important topics. And there we have the current position and the previous position. But you can see that how that's like after a whole lot of other information, it's just kind of like rounding the report out, I would say. Firstly, would love your feedback and thoughts. If you are doing any SEO reports, what do you have that we don't have? If you're receiving any SEO reports, how is this different from the SEO reports that you're receiving from your team and your agency? Would really love kind of like to hear your feedback on this. And then maybe quickly back in the slides is what is actually the workflow around generating this report, and what are the stuff that's maybe not as easy as thought about is, so if we do want to send out a monthly report, which is, I think, to the original question that Natasha had, is like how much time to spend on reporting. And so I would say probably maybe an hour or so per month we spend on this. Like once the template and data studio is dialed in, it's a lot. It's more like writing the executive summary, looking at the things, understanding the things. So hopefully it's like less than an hour or so to do the monthly report. Quarterly or annual report is probably longer because you want to be diving deeper. But then what do you need to do on a monthly basis is maybe we need to export the rank tracker from Ahrefs. We need to update our content calendar and our backlink statistics. Going to talk about that in a second. But then ideally, we only need to write the first slide, the executive summary, and all the rest updates automatically. And then we need to do some housekeeping, like saving the PDF, emailing the report to the client. And so, Helene, if you quickly want to open the roadmap, is a lot of the data we use comes from GA and from Search Console, but the other part is the spreadsheet. The spreadsheet is essentially our content calendar. It tells us what type of content are we creating and when did it get published. It is the home of all the links that we created and some backlink statistics. And so that's something that, you know, in terms of like being up to date, et cetera, that published URL and published month needs to be there. All right, I'll let you talk about my favorite chart, which is this new chart. And then I think, let's see if we can kind of make it through the rest of our slides in 5 minutes. Potentially we can.
Okay. Meaningful insights might need several data sources. Very, very profound. This chart, which I see that someone had asked about how we got the date, as we showed in the roadmap, we have the URL, we have the month that was published in, and a type of brief. This was blended in Data Studio, which you can take, I think it's typically up to 2. I haven't been able to get more to connect properly. It usually breaks. But I will use Search Console and then our spreadsheet. And then you want to have, just like using VLOOKUP, you want to have that common thing where it can link. So that's why we have the URL in the roadmap, because then the URL can link with Search Console. And then through this, we're able to see, you know, our impressions up on the content that we've helped supported, are the clicks up. And also sometimes I'm able to say, to scroll down and see 4 months ago, okay, this piece was doing well, but now like the impressions are down, the clicks are down, and I add it back on the roadmap and say, okay, it's time for an update. So this chart here can tell us a lot of things about what is going on. It can also be expanded and combining this data with Google Analytics data. But as mentioned before, like that can take, probably it can take a few months for that to start showing anything meaningful, anything interesting. And at that point, you know, you've already published it. It's sort of out of your mind in a way. So yeah. Another chart that we were talking about, we don't have it in our report, but this is something that we do with our SEO competitor gap analysis. And I just wanted to say that because we know SEO needs time, needs a lot of time. So it needs time for your competitors as well. So sometimes explaining that, maybe, you know, you're working with a client and they're like, this competitor is everywhere. Why are we not everywhere? And I can look back at their organic traffic. I can try to do a little investigation and see, like, well, they started SEO 3 years before you, or they publish 5 times a week, and you're publishing once a week. So being able to use this data and measuring it over time is you're really able to understand, is SEO a priority of those competitors? Is that something that you should be worried about? Or should you just like, they're not important anymore? This also, another way that you can do it is collecting the data more than once. So when I do SEO competitor analysis every 6 months, I'll check total number of keywords, top 10 keywords in that country, referring domains. And then through that, in this example, I'm comparing July 2022 with December 2022. Not perfect 6 months, but you'll live. And so you can see here that where the pink is gone up on the left, those ones, they gained a lot of referring domains. Now where that really faint green and pink line cross right here is where they lost. So you're able to see the trend. You're able to see which ones are really investing in those backlink profiles, you know, getting those referring domains versus the ones who are not putting a focus on this. And especially if you're seeing 6 months and there's no addition to the referring domains, they're not even thinking about that, probably. It's not on their radar. So you can learn a lot about what someone is doing with their SEO and how you can use this to get support for your projects and what you want to do.
Nice.
Yeah.
So to summarize, I feel like Helene and I could have added a lot more examples of fun charts that you can make or monthly reports to do. I think that was probably my most exciting SEO skill to learn in 2022. But the thing is, meaningful reports, SEO or otherwise, are your allies, both for client retention and career success. Because tying it back to what we originally said, if you are the one who can communicate a strategy and can communicate how you're executing against this strategy and how you're making progress, and if you can highlight success, this is a way to become irreplaceable. And this is a way to not only be valuable, but actually communicating and showcasing your value. And so instead of seeing it as the boring necessity that you have to do, if there's a way for you to find pleasure in this and seeing it as one of your strongest allies, I think that's a meaningful mindset shift. And then click. This is a screenshot from Alida Solis article on SEO reporting. Just be aware that different stakeholders have different questions. A CEO, a CMO doesn't necessarily want to know about keywords, right? They want to know about how much are we investing, how are we budgeting, how are we pacing, what is the return on investment, etc. And so just be aware that, as with every good marketing strategy, who is your audience for the report and what are you trying to communicate? What's the story here? And then tailor it appropriately. And I think it has questions, but I think we've been running through questions all along. We did put a few links up here, and can also share the slides, etc. But I think the bottom line is SEO reporting is a tricky beast, yes, but it's also one of your strongest allies. And so finding a way to get excited is my hot tip for 2023.
Yeah, the target audience does not go away. You will be stuck with your target audience forever. Sorry, guys.
And on the other hand, if you often get an SEO report that exists out of an Ahrefs export once a month, this is your call to maybe ask your provider or team for a better SEO report and more meaningful insight as well.